What's up, everybody? Demon back. Welcome to the second King Kong Q&A. Yes, with Skull Island coming up in about a month, I feel the need to do another Kong Skull Island Q&A, and you get, or it's not really a Kong Skull Island Q&A, it's more of a Kong Q&A only. Like, it's not just specific to Kong Skull Island, but I think most of the questions, if not all of the questions we're going to do here, are going to relate to Kong Skull Island. So this is, of course, the King Kong Q&A where, of course, if you're going to leave a question, you're going to type down below Q space A-N-D space A, and then you're going to put your questions, so I can control F, find your guys' questions, and then bang, next time I can do those questions as well. Please follow that set of instructions. It makes it a lot easier on me. So let's start out. Q&A, how do you think Kong will kill the giant skullcrawler LBG14? That's who asked it. Okay, so how is Kong going to kill this giant skullcrawler? I think there is two ways that he's going to kill it. Number one, he's going to outsmart it after, I think it'll put up a good fight against him. It'll get some really good licks in on him. It may look like he's going to die at one point or another, but I think at the end of the movie, he will outsmart the thing, and then bang, he finds some sort of weakness on it. Maybe he stabs it through the head with a giant tree or something. I don't know, he'll kill it somehow like that. Or I think the much cooler way that this could go down, the way that I want this movie to end, is because we've seen how much fan service there is already. What I would really love is if in this final scene, this skullcrawler battle is not going his way. He is losing. This thing is just on him. You have Sam Jackson's storyline. He is trying to kill Kong at that same exact time. It looks bad for Kong. Kong's going to break out of these chains. He is going to be in rage mode. He is going to go after this thing. He'll grab it, rip its head right open, break its jaw, and then I think it'd be cooler if he just whipped it right in half. Because not only would that add to the fan service, having him break the jaw of something that he kills. You know, you have Kong do that with the T-Rex in 3305. Does he break the snake's jaw in 76 or something like that? I don't know. But I think that would be amazing if we saw Kong break this skullcrawler's jaw. What a great reference that would be, as well as if he tore the head in half. That'd be taking a reference and going further with it to make it feel even more new and fresh. It was like in Godzilla 2014, I thought at the end of the movie Godzilla was going to break that Muto's jaw and it was going to be a Kong reference, but then he does the kiss of death that we all know and love, so can't argue there. That was awesome. Now we have a question from KelvinZilla2000 who asks, Q&A, what would happen if the Skullcrawlers have a Queen or King Skullcrawler? I've talked about that in other videos. And what kind of powers would it have? I'm guessing electric abilities like an eel. I'm also guessing the Skullcrawler power ability is in the movie. I would assume so. Where else would it be? No offense. So maybe I'm just misinterpreting that question. So here's the thing. If the Skullcrawlers have any abilities, which I do strongly believe they will, because we do see a scene of one of the Skullcrawlers running past the camera, and the camera lights up with all these bright lights, so I do think that there will be some sort of power that they have. I think you pretty much nailed it on the head. If it's going to be anything, just based off all these lights, it's going to be something electrical. I don't know if it'll be an EMP. It could be, because they could develop the same kind of resistance against Godzilla's creatures that the Mutos did, but it could also be something along the lines of, like you said, an electric eel, a lot more natural, something that we actually see in nature. It could just have kind of shock powers that he could use against Kong. Who knows, maybe this is where you work in that King Kong vs. Godzilla reference, and they're like, oh, Kong's species evolved in order to defend against these skullcrawlers. Kong's species grows stronger from electricity. Oh no! That'd be pretty sweet, honestly. That would also give Kong some cool abilities and a great throwback to King Kong vs. Godzilla. Set the balance equal again, because currently Godzilla is way too powerful for this Kong. So if they do that, set it equal a little bit more, that could be something cool that I'd like to see. Electric powers, I think you got it right. So here's a question from Dominic Escalante. I screwed up your name, man. I'm sorry. He asks, Q&A, do you think they will explain how the hell Kong got so big? Radiation, mutation, etc.? Nah, I think it'll just be like, oh man, that's a big gorilla. And I think that's pretty much as far as we're going to go with it. I don't think we need an explanation for how Kong got so big. We never got an explanation for how all the other Kongs have been as big as they are. So even though this Kong is 100 feet instead of opposed to like 50 to 25, even though this one's a lot bigger than that, I still don't think we need an explanation. We didn't get an explanation for why Godzilla is so big in 2014. We just basically heard that, yeah, he's from a time when monsters were just this big, when dinosaurs were that big, and he was an alpha predator. He was just this massive thing, and that's just what he is. That's just how his evolution and biology worked for him. I think it'll be the same way with Kong. I don't think it'll be mutation or radiation. I think it's just going to be his natural species is that big. Obviously, it's his natural species because we see dead skeletons of Kongs. You see people walking around through them. You also see that big skull in the mountain that is presumably a big Kong. So I would assume that, yeah, it'd make most sense if this was just him naturally that big, and I don't think we need to go any further with it than that. They could explain it. I really don't want it to be radiation or mutation, though, because I want it to be more natural. I want it to just be something special with Kong. He's that big because he's that big. I don't want it to be like, he's that big because he got superpowers. I think that's pretty stupid in terms of, a giant monster. Even though I know that's what Godzilla, the originals, all had, but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about King Kong. Now we have a question from Anime, Manga, and Much More. He or she asks, if you could give Kong a superpower like Godzilla's atomic breath, what would you choose? I know I just said superpowers are stupid, but this is actually better. It says, what would you choose? Doesn't have to be breath attack. In fact, I think maybe a healing factor or something of that nature. So, yes, you nailed it right there. I didn't even consider this. When I first read that comment, I was like, boom, lightning powers, let's go. King Kong vs. Godzilla, it's awesome. But then I started to think about it. No, healing factor is what he needs. I mean, this Kong, alright, so I'm pretty done with all the comments like Godzilla's gonna win because blah 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 blah. You're an idiot, all right. Sorry to tell you, but that kind of mindset does not take into consideration a good movie. That kind of mindset is only focusing on the worst possible movie where Godzilla shows up, one shots Kong, movie's over, boom, you're done. That's such a terrible movie. Everyone on Earth, including myself, would hate it, and I'd go against Legendary, which is something that I don't expect to do. But what I think would work is if we had Kong with a healing factor. Yeah, Godzilla's not going to be able to beat this Kong because he's going to heal from it. Not like Wolverine or Deadpool's healing factor, but something along the lines of like Godzilla 2000 had the Regenerator G1 that would help him out. You had GMK even had some sort of regenerative factor when his heart was still beating. This would be really cool if we had a Kong with a healing factor that could face off against Godzilla because he was just able to recover from his attacks in time to keep beating down on Godzilla. Kong's intelligence is also going to really play into that fight, but I think a lot of people need to start considering the fact that their movie is a terrible movie. I get it, you guys want Godzilla to win. Personally, just because Kong won in 62, I want to see Godzilla win in 2020 also. I would love to see that. I don't know why I stumbled so much over saying 2020, but I would love to see Godzilla win. That way we could each have our own version of the movie. Kong fans would have the 62 version, Godzilla fans would have the 2020 version. That's a great way to do it right there if Godzilla wins in 2020. But honestly, guys, the version of the movie you guys are all pitching is awful, and it's a good thing you guys aren't writers, because just saying, I think King Kong is going to lose and Godzilla's going to win because Godzilla has atomic breath. How do you explain that one? Boom. Godzilla's bigger. Boom. You're done. King Kong is dead. Just get out of here. It's a good thing you're not in Hollywood because you would be making the worst movies. So I think you pretty much nailed it. Other than lightning factor, which, let's face it, that'd be sweet as a reference, but other than that would suck. I think, because, it's just so weird, I think a healing factor is the best thing that this Kong could have other than intelligence. Last question for the day is from Refrox. Alright, so this question is Q&A. If the upcoming Kong vs. Godzilla, it's called Godzilla vs. Kong, but I'm not going to call you out on it. Just kidding, I just did. So he asks, or she asks, in the upcoming Kong vs. Godzilla, could have any reference to King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962, how would you like it to play out? So there's a lot of things that I would really like to see reference to, and they're already doing it. They're doing a giant octopus fight, which was my number one. I want to see another giant octopus fight because they're awesome. They're doing that in Skull Island. Other than that, like, lightning powers or a reference to them at the very least, of like, even if we just had a character be like, What if Kong had lightning powers? Wouldn't that be crazy? Whatever. I just want some sort of reference to that. Maybe a storm hits, winds up zapping Kong, and maybe so this could be a cool way for them to do it as well, is if they recreate that scene when Godzilla kills Kong. Well, he doesn't really kill him in the 62 version, but he nearly does, where his tail's beaten down on Kong and Kong's laying there on the rocks. All of a sudden lightning strikes, and it's almost like they just, do you guys know that electric shock when they zap someone's chest to get their heart back beating? What if a lightning bolt comes down, hits Kong, zaps his heart into beating again? Then Kong gets up and he's all pissed off that Godzilla just killed him, and he just goes after Godzilla with everything he has. That would be such a cool way to do that, and have a really great reference to King Kong vs. Godzilla with the lightning resurrecting Kong in that movie and giving him the edge in that one as well. I think that would be so cool, and I'm sure if it played out on screen it would be incredible. So there could be something like that. Of course, we already got the giant octopus. We could have there's nothing really else that I would want to see play out in this movie, because a lot of people really like that thing where Kong sticks the tree down Godzilla's throat. I think it's too cheesy. I wouldn't like to see that. I would think it'd be cool if they did another reference where they had Godzilla running at Kong, Kong grabbing Godzilla's arm and flipping him over his body, because he does that in 62, which was awesome to just see. That was actually the suit actor being flipped, Haru Nakajima being flipped by this dude in the Kong suit. So that would be really cool to see in this one, of this Kong grabbing Godzilla and just throwing him over his shoulder, because first of all, that'd show Kong to be incredibly strong. Second of all, that would knock Godzilla down for him, and he'd be like, whoa, what just happened? Because he's never dealt with anything like that before. A building nearly killed this Godzilla. Just saying, Shin Godzilla got right up after multiple buildings fell on him. Shin Godzilla's stronger. There you go, guys. Kong Q&A. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. D-Man?